Hello and welcome to this video tutorial for the roll-up tassel from Reel and Hammer. This is the video that just accompanies the wee worksheet and any workshops that you might attend where we teach this class, just to kind of show you exactly what we're going to do. So if there's either something on the worksheet that's not clear, or if you're wanting to make your second one after you've been on a wee workshop or something, you should be able to do it, no worries at all. So I've gone ahead and I've just got out my A beads and my B beads, because those are the ones that we're going to be using first off. You don't need to get the rest of them out just now. I've got my needle just in my packet here, I've got my stopper bead, and I've got my thread. So the only other thing that we need is a pair of scissors as well, just to kind of cut our thread. The only reason I don't get out all my beads is because I tend to knock them everywhere, so I've just left them in their packets for now. So I'm just going to be doing this alongside the worksheet, so it should kind of just follow through in a logical order, and you should be able to do the two side by side. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so I've gone ahead and cut myself a length of thread, and I've probably cut about 1.5 meters, about an arm's width of thread, and I'm going to thread that onto my needle just now, and then I'm going to pull it through, so I've got a long tail coming through as well, and then that way I'm not going to keep accidentally unthreading my needle all the time. And now what we're going to do is we're going to add our stopper bead on. So you want to leave about 10 centimeters after your stopper bead. So I'm going to push that on and pull that right down towards the end here, and then I'm just going to do a very simple overhand knot like you would do to kind of start tying your shoelaces. Okay, so here we go. So you've got two different colours of these beads here. These beads are called your bugle beads. You've got 4 clear ones, and then you should have 10 of the main colour that you're using. I'm doing this in the navy and gold today. The only reason that we've got the 4 clear is it just makes it easier for us when we are doing our kind of rolling up at the end. So you can, of course, totally do this with all the same colour ones. You just need to remember, obviously, which are your beginning 4. So I just find it easier to have kind of more of a visual clue. So these are our A beads. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by threading on 2 A beads, and we're going to bring these down to sit next to our stopper bead. So I've gone through these beads from left to right, so I'm just going to go through them again from left to right, and that is going to pull them round into a little circle. So and I'm using my stopper bead here to kind of tension them together. So I'm pulling up nice and tight next to my stopper bead. Can you see? So these two are now sat next to each other in a little circle. And so we're just going to do that again. So we're going to add on one more. So I'm going in the bottom. So I've come out the top. So I'm going to go into the bottom of this bead here. Let me just pull that through there. And I'm just pulling nice and tight. So I'm using the fingers of my non-dominant hand just to kind of hold everything still so I can pull nice and tight. So I've gone through once, and then I'm going to go through this newest bead that we've just added on again to come out the bottom, ready to thread on the next one. So my final A bead, and I've come out the bottom, so I'm going to go in the top, pull that through, and then continue on through the next bead. And that's all you're going to do. So we've done it with our 4 A beads, and now we're going to do it with our 10 B beads. Now you want to try and keep your tension on this as tight as possible, just because it is going to make the overall tassel look that bit neater. But don't worry, because we are going to reinforce it, so it shouldn't be too much of an issue if you have got some kind of gappy bits at one end or the other. Just try and keep holding it all as tight as possible. So can you see where I've pulled it there? Whoops, dropped it now. I've got a wee bit of a gap just in this bottom bit here, so I'm just gonna hold the beads together, and I'm gonna give the thread a wee tug just there, just to kind of pull those, and they're now sitting just that bit tighter together. And as we go through, the piece will kind of get a wee bit more firm as we go. But this bit is always the hardest bit, just to kind of get this tension right. So these beads that we're using are called bugle beads. So they're the tubular shaped ones. And then the other beads that see, I've got distracted now. So I need to take that one back off and go back through this one first. So pull that nice and tight there, trying to hold everything nice and tight under tension. So the two beads that we're using in this kit are bugle beads, which are these ones, and then seed beads, which are your beads C, D, and E. And what we're doing right now, this is actually called ladder stitch. So you're literally just kind of adding them on like you would add on the rungs of a ladder. I find it easier as well to press the work into the bead mat, just because it stops things from kind of flying everywhere. Also, it means that the camera can focus easier for me, but yeah, it tends to just be that wee bit easier to kind of hold everything nice and tight. Oh, need to go through this one again. Now the way that these bugle beads are made is they're made of long tubes of glass, which they then kind of cut to specific lengths. But what it does mean is, because they are wee glass beads, is that you sometimes get one like this one here, where the end of it isn't quite perpendicular. It's got almost a wee jaggedy edge. So you should have spares in your kit. So if you do have any beads that you think just aren't quite up to scratch, you should be able to just kind of swap it out for a different one. Most of them are totally fine. You just get the odd one which got a wee chip on the end of it. And I mean, even if you do decide to use that one, it's not the end of the world. It shouldn't be too noticeable. So remember, once you've added the newest bee bead on, you have to go back down through it and pull tight. So keep the pattern going. So I'm just all the time using the index finger on my non-dominant hand just to kind of make sure that everything is staying exactly where I want it to, and tightening up as much as possible. So there's no hurry, just kind of go through and make sure that it's super tight. Okay, I'm just going to pull that on. Okay, there we go. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got my 4 A beads, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of my B beads. Okay, so now I'm ready to start doing my tassel strands. Okay, so I'm just going to get my beads out for that just now. Okay, so I've got my my beads out now for the rest of the piece. So I've got my C beads, my D beads, and my E beads here, and these are all seed beads, and we've got two different sizes. So our C and our E are the same size, then we've got larger D beads just here. Okay, so the next bit we're going to do, we've done our top of our tassel, and now we're going to do the tassel strands, and this technique is called fringing. So what we're going to do essentially is we're going to thread on 22 beads. We're going to ignore the last bead and go back up through the other ones, and that last bead will anchor the beads on and make sure that they don't fall off the end, basically. So the only hard bit about this is you have to keep count. Okay, so we're going to start by putting on, so we're exiting our final B bead just here. We're going to thread on 20 C beads, 1 D bead, and 1 C bead. Now I find it easier to push the needle into the mat to pick up my beads as opposed to picking them up and threading them on one at a time. I think there's just kind of less room to drop them, as it were. So, but it's just whatever works best for you. So I'm just going to check 5, 10, 50. Oh wait, hold on. 5, 10, 15, 20. Yep, so I've got 20 C beads. I'm going to go through 1 D bead and 1 C bead just there, and I'm going to bring them down to sit on the mat. Okay, so ignoring this final C bead here, I'm going to go back up through all of these beads just here. I don't know if my needle's long enough to do it in one. Let's see. Yep, perfect. I'm just going to pull this up, and again, nice and tight. The thing with all beadwork is keeping your tension nice and tight. So what you can do is once you've pulled it up is you can use this bottom C bead here just to kind of tension everything. So if you just kind of almost trap that with your finger and pull tight, and that will kind of toggle everything up. So that's our first strand done. So we've got 20 C beads, a D bead, a C bead. We've gone back up through these ones, ignored this one. And now what we're going to do is we're going to put on one E bead, and that's going to go in the gap between these two beads here. So let's just do that. Pull that down. Okay, and that is literally, that's all we're going to do now. All the way along. We're going to change the colour of the top beads in a little while, but let's just start our next strand first. So we're going to do another 20 C beads. Okay, and then push them up and along, and this is a good way to tell. They should just be the same length really, and then that way you know you've got the right amount on. So we're doing one D and one C, pushing them down to meet. Ignoring this last C bead, and we're going back up through the D and all the C beads above it and out of our B bead at the top, pulling nice and tight, and we're going to put an E bead on over the top. Okay, so we're going to repeat that until we have got 9 E beads along the top. So we're going to do another kind of 9 can't do maths, another 7 strands until we've got 9 E beads along the top, and then we're going to change colour. So let's just do that just now. Okay, so I've not quite got my 9 strands yet, but I don't know if you can see I am running out of thread. Now I could probably have enough to do another tassel, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you what we do when we run out of thread. So basically what we need to do when we run out of thread is we need to tie off the thread that we're using and just add in a new thread. Now we want to be coming out of this bit here. But what we do is I'm going to go back a bit and I'm going to tie off this thread down here, and then I'm going to add in a new thread just before where I need to be, and then that way hopefully it should be invisible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go kind of back along through this top bead here, down this bugle, and a couple of beads down this strand here, and I'm going to tie the thread off just around the existing thread, and that way it will be buried nicely in my tassel. I'm just going to come out. Now there's no kind of rules as to where you need to tie it off. You just want to really tie it off somewhere where it's not going to be obvious and it's not going to get in the way, which I mean isn't an issue, but basically sometimes where you do your little knots, it can then block the whole of the bead, because obviously the knot is just a wee bit chunky. So you want to do it somewhere where you're not going to be going kind of through again, and we're not going through these tassel strands again. So I've just done one knot there, but I'll just show it you again. So what I'm doing is I'm taking my needle under and leaving myself a loop, and then I'm just going to go back through the loop like this, and I'm going to make sure that the loop is sitting in the gap where the thread came out. It's just one bead below at the moment, so I'm just going to jiggle that, pull that nice and tight like that. There we go. So that is now knotted off. Let me see if I can refocus that for you. Knotted off between these beads just here. So I'm just going to go through the next bead along. Oh, not gathering all my tassels. Just going to go through the next bead along, pull that tight. There we go. And now what I'm going to do is, you can leave all your thread ends, but I just find they get a wee bit in the way. So I'm just going to snip that off as close to the work as possible. There we go. So that has now just disappeared into the work. So let me get rid of this thread, and I'm going to unravel myself a new length of thread. The thing with tassels is they do take quite a lot of thread because you're constantly going down and up and down and up. So you probably will have to add in a new thread at some point. And honestly, the key to this is good light. Good light is definitely the key, but we do have some handy like hints and tips on our YouTube channel, and we have got a video purely dedicated to threading the needle because it is the hardest thing you'll do. Okay, so we finished our thread coming out of this top strand here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie this off around one of these strands and then travel back up. So I'm just going to take the thread underneath the tassel strand. I'm just tying a very simple overhand knot between those beads just there. I'm going to double that over one more time like that, and then I'm going to go up through these beads. Let me just pull my thread nice and pull my tail of my thread, through, so that I'm not going to keep undoing it. So let's just, and then that comes out the top there. So that's where we finished off our strand. Just watch these strands don't get involved in this big old loop that we've got here. Pull that nice and tight, and can you see how that knot has now just disappeared into the work? So I'm just gonna snip that just here. Perfect. Now you can, on any of your knots, if you are wanting to make sure they're super secure, you can always dab just a wee bit of clear nail polish or kind of PVA glue or something just on the knot to stop them undoing themselves. But because our knots are in our work, it's not going to be an issue. That would only really be if we were kind of doing a knot just kind of on the end here or something and it was really exposed and we were a bit worried about it. Okay, so on we go with the next 3 tassel strands with E-beads on top. Okay, so I've added my 9 E-beads along the top here. So I've still got another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tassel strands to do. But what we're going to do now is when we come out the top, we're going to just put on one of the C beads instead of the E beads. So the last 4 beads will be C beads on the top here. And again, that's just a visual reminder for when we're rolling up the tassel. They will be inside the tassel, so it won't matter, you won't kind of see them at all, but you can just use the same colour if you want. It's just, I find it easier, just as a bit more of a visual reminder, just to change colour at the top here to the C beads. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tassels to go, and we're going to put 4 on the top here. And now as we come to do the last one, obviously you'll see, but you might just want to ease off this stopper bead just here, just so you've got room to get in at the bottom there, but that's totally up to you. So let's continue on and we'll finish off our tassel strands just now. Okay, fab. So that is fringing done on our tassel. I just tidied up my bead mat here. We're still going to need some e-beads though, so I've just kept those out there now. So you don't need to add a bead on your last one because there's not really anywhere for it to go at the moment. So we're just going to keep this as it is. The first thing we want to do now though, before we go any further, is we want to finish off this tail end just here, because otherwise that is going to get all involved and we don't need that. So if you unthread your needle from your working end, and you're just going to thread that onto the tail end and tie it off just as we have done before. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to go straight down this strand and I'm going to do a little knot around one of these beads just here. Or if you want, you can take it all the way down and round and then back up and knot it. Now, because this is the tail end and we've done quite a bit of work on our piece, this end might be a little bit fuzzy and a little bit hard to thread, in which case just get your pair of scissors and just kind of cut yourself just kind of a new kind of clean end to work from. Or push comes to shove, just lick the thread. But obviously that's not very COVID safe. But yeah, so you just want to be able to thread it. So I'm just going to take, in fact, I'm going to go down to the bottom and back up and round for this one, I think. Just because I've got enough thread, so I might as well. But you're totally fine to just tie it off. But this is just going to help keep everything nice and tight. So I've gone down the bottom, through that end C bead, back up through the D bead to here, and I'm going to tie off just round here. So I'm taking my thread underneath, pulling it back through the loop, making sure the loop is between the right two beads, and then I'm just going to repeat. So through that loop just there. There we go, and then through the next bead or two, pull that tight and cut that, and then that way we've not got lots of thread that we're kind of faffing around with as we try and get this done. Okay, so that is the tassel, so we just need to rethread our needle onto our working end just now. Let's just do that. There we go, perfect. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to roll up the tassel. So I'm just going to move it sideways just because it's better in the shot. But the 4 beads that we've got of the different colour are going to make a centre little circle for us, and then we're going to wrap that round the outside a little bit like that. Okay, so what we want to do first, so we're coming out of the top of, let me just turn the instructions. So we're exiting the end A bead. From the top, we're going to go through these 4 C beads here and down through this 4th A bead here. Okay, and then we're going to go back through that one. So we're making a kind of bizarre circle, and that circle there is going to pull this in nice and tight and give us the centre of our circle. So that's why we've got these 4 in a different colour. It makes it just that bit easier. So I'm going through the 4 beads here, 1, 2, 3, 4. Down through this bugle bead here. Now this bit might be quite tight because we've been through these beads a couple of times now, but there should still be plenty of room. So just push that down and through. Pull, make sure this tail loop here isn't getting caught on anything as we pull it through. And then we're going to go up through this end bead here, just like that. And that brings those beads, if I pull that now nice and tight, can you see how that makes these 2 end beads here just want to sit next to each other because we've gone through those 2. So we're going to pull that in nice and tight like that. So that's going to form the small circle. So then what we're going to do is we're going to continue through the 4 beads again at the top. 1, 2. These are the C beads that we're going through those 4, sorry, let me refocus, through those 4, and then, let me just put that back down, so we're going through those 4 there, and then we're going along through these beads here, we're going down this one and we're going back up this one, but we're going to roll this bit into it. So I find the easiest thing to do is we're going to go through the 9 E-beads at the top just here. So we're just repeating exactly what we did with the centre, but this is going to make us a little outside circle. So what I find easy is I've gone through those 9 and then I'm just very gently just rolling this up inside, and then I'm going to go down through this end bugle bead here. This is a wee bit tricky to come out in the right place because you don't want to come out in your tassel, and then I'm going to go up through. Now this is the 5th bugle bead along, and this is why we do it in a different colour, the 4 individual ones, because otherwise it's sometimes quite tricky to find that 5th one. So let me lie that back flat. So I've just left it a little bit open so you can see what you're doing. Now don't get your tassels involved like I have just now. So let's just poke those back through. So this thread here, it's coming out the end of the 9th one and it's going up through the 5th, and we're going to pull that nice and tight, and that pulls those 2 together like that. Now you should be able to just pop back through the 9th, down through that final one and back up through the 5th one again one more time, just to bring those round into a circle. Now if for some reason your bugles won't let you do that, if you've got too much thread in them, don't worry, that's not a problem, but it will just make it that bit more secure if you can. So can you see how that has now pulled these guys together? So we've got our tassel essentially pretty much done. Now the only thing we still need to do, there's a couple of things we need to do still, is we need to add in an extra few E-beads here. Can you see? Just because we can see the C beads from the inside. Because the bugle beads, the tube beads, are just a slightly different thickness, it means we've got this emptiness here. Oops, sorry. But that's a good thing because it means we're going to reinforce the circle as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up an E-bead, and then I'm going to go round and through all of these top E-beads here. So this is just reinforcing this circular shape that we've got. Now depending on your E-beads, you might just need to add in 1, or like me, you might need to add in 2. So I've added in 1 E-bead, but I've still got just a wee gap here, so I'm just going to add in a 2nd E-bead, and I'm going to go through another couple just here. Okay, perfect, and I'm going to pull that nice and tight, and there we go. And now you can't really see the join at all. So that's our tassel, done, fantastic. Now the only thing left to do is we need to add on just a small little loop across the top so that we can attach it to whatever we're wanting to make, whether it's earrings or a necklace or anything like that. And then we need to finish off our thread ends. So we're coming out of one of our E-beads at the top here. Now we're going to pick up 5 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if you were making these into earrings, this is where you would add the loop for your fishhook. So at the bottom of the earrings, you would thread that on just now as well. But I'm going to make this into a necklace, so I'm just going to put a chain through, so that's not a thing. Not an issue, sorry. So, and now I'm going to go through a bead on the opposite side. So I'm just going to go through this bead here, so this E bead just here, like this. And that is going to pull that tassel across. And I'm going back up, so can you see how I've gone through? I've gone through the one side of that E bead, and now I've come back out and I'm going back up and through just to reinforce these beads on the top here. So I've gone through 2 of them, I've got 3 more to go through, and I've gone through that side of the E bead, so I'm going in the other side just to bring that round, and then again I'm going to continue on through another bead or 2 just to anchor that in, and then I'm going to tie off, whoops, little knot, there we go. I'm going to tie off the thread just there. So you can go down into one of your tassel strands to tie it off, or you can just tie it off around the top here, which is what I'm going to do now. So I'm going to take my needle, I'm going to go under this thread just here. I'm going to pull it through, leaving myself my little loop, and tighten that off. And then I'm just going to repeat that one more time, just to make sure that is nice and secure. This is a perfect place if you did want to add just a dab of nail polish or something, but again, we don't need it. I'm going to go through the next bead along to pull that knot into the bead so you can't see, and then I'm going to just cut the remaining thread off, just like that. And there you have your tassel. Okay, so that's all there is to it really. So here's my second one that I've just made. Now this one was in slightly different beads, which is why it's slightly larger. But I just wanted to show you because what I've done is I've put the jump ring on the top there. So when I was threading on my 5 beads, I just added on the jump ring. So now you know the technique. There's kind of quite a lot you can do with it. You can totally make them different lengths. I mean, this one here just uses slightly different beads, so it's just that bit bigger. This one here, let me see if I can show you this one. So this one, what I did was when I did my fringing, so on this bit, oh no, yes, so this bit here, before I rolled it up, basically all of my fringes were different lengths. So you want the ones on the inside, so the ones by your 4 clear beads, these ones need to be the longest. And then that way when you roll it up you get a spiral. So for this one, I think the shortest one I did was 15 beads long, and then the longest one would be 24 beads long. And then when you roll it up you get this kind of spiral effect, which I've just tried to amplify a bit more by using different shades of beads. So you can totally do something like that. It works best when it's hanging, because then you can kind of see the spiral a bit more clearly. But you can do spirals, you can do kind of graduated sizing as well. So we've got the biggest beads, we've got our D beads at the bottom here that are slightly bigger, but you could use a couple of those down the bottom here and that would give your tassel more flair as well. There's lots of different things you can do now you know the technique. We used 14 bugles at the top to make 2 circles, but you could totally use more and make a bigger chunkier one. So you would just repeat what we did there. So we did 4 in our inside circle, and then we did the 10 of the outside circle, and then you could do say another 15 to make a further circle around that one. And as you can see with all of these, you can't see the coloured beads that we used inside or the clear bugles at all, so they're super well hidden. So it's just a good way really to kind of keep it so that you can, it's more of a visual reminder for you when you're making it really. It makes that rolling up bit easier. But yeah, the rolling up bit I think is the hardest, but all you need to remember you're doing is you're going down a bugle and then up another bugle and back round. So you're just doing like we did in the initial stages, and because you're using the bugles at the 2 end, you're making them into a circle and forcing them to sit next to each other so that they kind of join up nice and tight and you get this lovely spiral roll up tassel. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed the workshop. If you do have any problems at all, please do get in touch. Our email address is info@reelandhammer.com, or you can get in touch with us through any of our social media platforms or our website. Check out our YouTube channel. We have got a lot more videos, loads of free content on how to do different stitches and things. And of course, all our kits do come with full video tutorials. And a lot of them, if it's teaching you a specific stitch, comes with kind of practice kits for you as well. So they're super, super thorough. They're very well done, even if I do say so myself. I hope you enjoyed this. I'd love to see what you made, so please do tag us in anything that you do post. And if you do have any problems, then please get in touch. That's on us, that's not on you. These kits are designed to be made by anyone, so if for some reason you are struggling, then that's a mistake that we've made and not something on you, so please do get in touch. But yeah, so I hope you enjoyed it, and wear your new tassels with pride. Thanks so much. Bye now.